one of the things that happens to us as we age is that things we took for granted for our whole life now are things that may present themselves as health and medical issues. Matthew Wester is with us today, Dr. Matthew Wester. He is a doctor of audiology with Ascent Audiology, which has locations in Glendale, Goodyear, and Surprise. Matthew, wonderful to have this time with you today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Bill.
Hearing is something that, obviously, if it's working fine, is going to be something that is a nice enhancement for your life. On the other hand, if you start to have hearing loss, that's where we run into the thing that, it might be your adult son or daughter who's like, Dad, get a hearing aid. And it presents that kind of issue for people in that it's going to affect their quality of life. But let me start at the beginning here. When we talk about the whole area of hearing and audiology, give us the 40,000-foot view on this in terms of how does it manifest itself and when does it start to affect people as they age?
Well, age-related hearing loss, that's going to happen to every human being. It doesn't matter anything about your genetics. That's going to happen to everybody. It typically starts in your mid-50s, but it's typically not noticeable for people for another 10 or 15 years. So by the time people are in their mid-60s or late 60s, they've probably had some hearing loss for all those years. And it's very hard to notice hearing loss when it's in its early stages because your brain works so hard to fill in the gaps that your ears are missing or your auditory system is missing. And so people can have quite a bit of hearing loss and think that they're doing just fine. But typically, if you probe a little bit further, what people notice first is when there's background noise, I can't understand every word. The speech isn't clear. It sounds like people are mumbling, or it sounds muffled. That's typically what people start to report in the early stages of age-related hearing loss.
Is hearing loss in audiology a neglected area? Because if you think about the eyes, for instance, once you have glasses, you'll probably go to the optometrist or the ophthalmologist every few years to get a new prescription.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in school, in grammar school, they would actually give us audiology tests. But I haven't had one for years. So would you say that the audiology area is maybe something that's neglected by society until you hit the point of where there's something that's really noticeable?
Yes, I would agree with that. It's so easy to put off treating hearing loss because it doesn't have as obvious of an impact as some other sensory deficits like vision loss. If you have vision loss, you might not be able to drive at night at all. With hearing loss, you can struggle through so many situations. It gets harder and harder to do them, and it can be more frustrating for the person with the hearing loss and the person talking to them. But people can really get by, so it's really easy to put that off. And most hearing loss isn't related to a medical disease. So it's a healthcare issue, and it's a quality of life issue, and it's about your well-being as you age. But there's no immediate threat there, right? And so even doctors, I think, have put a lower priority on encouraging, like primary care health doctors, put a lower priority on having patients start getting their hearing tested every year once they hit age 60. And that's what we would recommend. Most people at 60 do have some hearing loss, and they probably don't realize it. And the only way to know is to measure it. And so I think that's an accurate statement that it's real easy to dismiss hearing loss or put it off, and that presents some challenges.
Dr. Matthew Wester is with us today. He's a doctor of audiology at the Ascent Audiology Centers in Glendale, Goodyear, and Surprise. Now, with vision, you hear about 20/20 vision and 20/40 vision and stuff like that. With hearing, can we overall have good hearing, but can different ranges be affected differently in different people?
Sure. When we talk about the auditory system or the hearing system, there's sections to it, and a hearing test, a basic hearing test, just measures how soft a sounds can I hear. Can I hear that microwave beep anymore? If I have enough hearing loss at those high frequencies, I might not hear that high-pitched sound because it's just not loud enough. But that's just a basic part of the hearing test. Another part of the hearing test is, well, one, we want to make sure that the outer ear is clear, so that's from your ear on the outside of your head to your eardrum. So if there wax in the ears rarely causes hearing loss. Your ear would have to be totally blocked up. So when we take wax out of someone's ear, their hearing usually doesn't get better. But we want to make sure the outer ear is normal, and then on the other side of the eardrum, that's the middle ear, we want to make sure that's functioning well. But most age-related hearing loss, or really all age-related hearing loss, is in the inner ears on both sides. So that's embedded in your skull bone. And that's where age-related hearing loss happens, and that's the basic what we measure. How soft a sounds can you hear at each pitch? Can you hear the microwave beep or not? But there's a lot more to it than that. We also want to measure when we make sounds loud enough for someone's hearing loss so the ear gets the sound it needs, how clear a signal does the nerve send to the brain? So this is the information superhighway from the ear to the brain. That clarity can decline as well. There's thousands of nerve fibers, and they're all different pitches. And so there's low pitch pathways of nerves, there's middle pitch, and then there's high pitch pathways. And so someone can have a certain amount of hearing loss where I need sounds to be louder at this level, but when they are loud enough, I'm only getting 80% of the words right. Another person with that same amount of hearing loss might get 100% of the words right, or someone might only get 50% of the words right. So that's an important part of what we measure. How clear a signal does the nerve send from the ear to the brain once sounds are loud enough? And then the most important part of the auditory system is, what does the brain do with this information once it gets the information? It may be degraded from the ear, it may be degraded from the nerve, whatever the brain gets. How well can the brain focus on sounds that you want to hear, like speech, and tune out sounds that you don't want to hear, like the din of a restaurant? And so we measure all of those things. So the hearing system is pretty complex, and if you don't measure all those things, you don't really know what someone's abilities are, or disabilities, we might call them, really. And so that's what we do at Ascent. We do very thorough testing, look at all the parts of the hearing system so that we know what the disabilities are and we best know how to address them and treat them.
It's fascinating. So if to feed back to you, you could conceivably have good overall hearing, but in a particular range, you may not be doing so well in that particular range.
Yes, and so typically with age-related hearing loss, and noise-induced hearing loss is really common too, especially in older generations when we didn't know about hearing protection so much. You know, people who are in the military or worked construction jobs or factory jobs or any kind of noisy jobs, when hearing protection wasn't just a part of our world, a lot of males got exposed to a lot of noise. So
like gunshots,
or motorcycles or loud music, but usually
Yeah.
it's guns or occupational stuff that people do. So noise-induced and age-related hearing loss affects high pitches more than low pitches. Low pitches are where the vowels in speech are. High pitches are where a lot of the consonants are, like th, sh, k, f, those kinds of sounds. So they're high pitched and they're soft. And so when you have good hearing in the low pitches and poor hearing, we grade hearing loss by mild, moderate, moderately severe, severe, or profound. So 5 degrees of hearing loss. Any amount of high frequency hearing loss results in speech isn't as clear. So that's where you get, I hear people talking, but I misunderstand words, or it sounds like they're mumbling. And that's what happens with different amounts of hearing loss at different pitches.
Dr. Matthew Wester is with us. He is a doctor of audiology at Ascent Audiology, which has offices in Glendale, Goodyear, and Surprise. Recently did an interview with a guy who owns a gun store, and they were doing a special event on suppressors.
Uh-huh.
We'll come back and talk about that because there are lots of things that people, I mean, there should be some emphasis on prevention here because there are things people could be doing in the work that they do or certain things they do for sport where if they're not careful, they could be really impacting their hearing.